Yes, sir, it's good to go.
Okay. So, a very warm welcome to everyone present on the second finance conclave, which is on the topic of the role of FinTech in financial inclusion and integration in India. So, I would like to invite Ms. Meghavi Vyas from second year MBA to formally inaugurate, to start the session. Meghavi.
Thank you, ma'am. Very good afternoon to one and all present over here. I, Meghavi Mistry, student of SY-MBA, take this opportunity of welcoming all of you to Second Finance Conclave organized by School of Business and Law, Navrachana University in association with CII Vadodara chapter. The theme of the event is the role of FinTech in financial inclusion and integration in India. FinTech is a buzzword, a beautiful conglomerate of finance and technology which has revolutionized the business that is conducted today. It has provided immense opportunity for everyone to grow and scale up. The future of financial services will remain a moving target, and to succeed in a market that keeps changing, banks need to be able to move quickly and agile, composing new products and services faster. Let me share a few interesting facts about FinTech industry. FinTech are almost 50% of the list of unicorn businesses in the world. That is, valuation of these companies is more than $1 billion. Out of 250 top unicorns, 118 are FinTechs. Interesting, isn't it? In 2021, year to date, top 250 private finance companies have raised $40 billion in equity funding across 275 deals. People are tired of having so many passwords, said by Greg Wolfram. Now let us begin our second finance conclave by invoking the presence of and blessings of the Lord Almighty by starting a prayer song. Sagar, can you please share the screen?
भाई मैं मेरा चेंज नहीं कर पा रही हूँ नेम मीटिंग से पहले नहीं आता
वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा.
Who's audible, Meghavi?
No, it is not yet audible. Can you please share the screen?
Yes, it was audible.
It was. It went well. Yeah. We can move on.
Okay. So today, as our panel for Second Finance Conclave 2021, we have the honor of having with us our keynote speaker, Mr. Samar Kagalwala, Chief Marketing, Personal Banking and Media, AU Small Finance Bank, followed by Jinan Shah, Managing Director at PSB Loans, and last but not the least, Ms. Monica Jasuja, FinTech Payments and Digital Economy Strategist. Now, without wasting a single minute, let me call upon Dr. Hitesh Bhatia, Associate Dean, School of Business and Law, to formally inaugurate the Second Finance Conclave.
Thank you so much, Meghavi. Yeah, thank you so much, Meghavi. But Nilay sir, the Vice Chancellor of Navrachana University, Professor Nilay Yajnik has just joined us. So, Samar, I will just introduce you to Professor Nilay Yajnik.
Sure.
He is the Provost and Vice Chancellor of our university, and he has been a great motivator and always has encouraged us to do these activities in the larger interest of the student community over here. May I first request Nilay sir to give his blessings for this conclave, and we can move forward then. Nilay sir, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hitesh Bhatia. Thank you so much. And on behalf of Navrachana University, let me welcome all the panelists, all the speakers today for a very important second finance conclave. And, in fact, I just finished giving a talk at the CII program on education for ESG, environment, social, and governance. And one of the things which came out there was how finance and the parameters of sustainability have to be included now, even in your financial aspects. So it was very interesting to discuss this. And I think, therefore, the Finance Conclave is so relevant. I was looking at some of the themes which are there in today's finance conference. And one specific thing is about the role of technology in finance. And this is something which is so interesting, and it's so dynamic and changing. And I thought I would use this opportunity to announce a collaboration which we have launched just now. There is a very leading French company dealing in the business of using artificial intelligence and high-end software for tracking and predicting financial crimes and frauds. And Navrachana University has tied up formally with this French company called Mazars. And we will be launching an awareness program on the role of technology in tracking financial crimes and fraud management, and even predicting. So I thought, we are now going into the next stage of using technology in finance. Long back in the 90s, I remember, actually in the 80s, when the Rangarajan committee talked about computerization in banks, there was so much of fear of having computers in banks that the banks called them an automatic ledger posting machine, though it was actually a computer, a personal computer. And from there till today, we've gone such a long way where, where technology is the backbone of any financial application. And therefore, I too am very interested in listening to several of our speakers who have come today, and the chief guests also, all the guests who have come today. Thank you so much for coming. My congratulations to Dr. Hitesh Bhatia, Dr. Nikita Mehta, who has coordinated and conceptualized this entire finance conclave, and who will also be coordinating and driving this Navrachana University Mazars joint venture. My best wishes to all the students. You've put in tremendous effort in organizing this, and I hope and I'm sure it'll be a great learning for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for taking time out. We know that you had a busy day today, but you made it. So thank you so much, sir. Right. So, once again, I will not take much time, and I think we will start with the keynote address. And just to share that this idea was there when we were talking to the students, discussing about various themes on which we could have next conclave that we wanted to. And, students were talking about that how they are now using more and more digital modes of payments and not dependent on cash. And that is how, we introduced them to FinTech, and they said that it is, it would be great that if they can know more about it, because we are, as a growing university and as a private university, we have a lot of opportunities to upgrade our curriculum and syllabus. And we bring in a lot of new topics and new concepts regularly in our curriculum. And this is one that we are now looking forward to incorporate in our teachings also, so that we make students more industry ready and industry friendly. So in that continuation, this conclave came into, reality. And again, once again, I will thank all the CII, YI partners and members who helped us to get all the speakers connected with. Samar, you are a great support in this case. And we look forward to hear you. And I'm sure that the students will benefit the most from your expertise and understanding on this particular sector. So once again, I welcome everyone to the second Finance Conclave of School of Business and Law at Navrachana University.
Thank you so much for inviting.
Thank you, sir, for addressing us with your remarks. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Krunal, Co-Chairman, Vadodara Chapter.
Krunal, you can also, just bless the occasion, say a few words on as a representative of YI.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Hitesh. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Sorry, my internet is a little, bad, so connection is a little unstable. That's what my laptop says. I hope I'm audible and I'm visible.
Yes, sure. Go on.
Great, thank you. So thank you so much, sir. I'll not take much of time because I'm sure students are eagerly waiting to hear Mr. Samar and all our other panelists. But just a quick, one-line, two-line introduction, as you kind of correctly mentioned. So first of all, thank you, Nilay sir, thank you, Hitesh sir, and thank you entire Navrachana University team for allowing us to be partner with you guys in this wonderful initiative. And we only feel more and more proud when we see so many students who are willing to learn the next level technology and what's going to come up in their way. Because I remember in my school days or in my college, they were more concerned about the course and curriculum that we have to finish. Nobody really thought about what's next. So it's really wonderful that Navrachana encourages, and in a way students have also lapped this opportunity of learning what's going to come next in terms of the future. A lot of you would know, obviously, CII. CII represents Confederation of Indian Industry. CII represents 40% of India's GDP. And YI is part of CII. It's a youth wing of CII, essentially developed not as a organization, not as some kind of a movement or an activity, but it's more of a force, as we call ourselves. It's a force of young individuals, young Indians who are out there to develop India and usher India into the the vision of 2030 that great Abdul Kalam had set for ourselves. So while CII obviously looks at a lot of industry-led, economy-led initiatives, Young Indians essentially looks at how India can be developed through non-economic means also. So we look at a lot of social initiatives. We look at initiatives or in terms of road safety or rural development. How can youth of today's India contribute towards development of India, which is more of an holistic development and not just an economic or a financial development? So that's what essentially Young Indians are there, and our association with universities like Navrachana essentially comes under our head of Yuva, where our core target and what our core objective or the ethos is, how do we inculcate learning which is beyond education? And I think that's exactly and precisely what we are here for, that there is a core education which all of you are part of, but then how do we inculcate learning that goes way, way beyond the, the curriculums and the school books or the college books that we have. And, FinTech being one of the areas of subject that we've been essentially dealing with, besides, doing a lot of sessions on design thinking, blue ocean strategy, 5S. So this is the kind of engagement we continually have with students, just so as to ensure that not just they are industry ready, but they are actually life ready when they move out of their colleges. Right. So with that, I would like to once again thank everyone. And I hope the students over here, everybody rather present in this forum today, learn amazing stuff from our illustrious and accomplished industry experts, somebody who's actually not just followed, but actually set industry standards and industry benchmarks. So I hope you guys don't just carry a few notes and information from here, but you actually take up learnings and inspiration that would probably change and create the next wave of FinTech and financial reform in India. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Krunal, for sharing such wonderful thoughts with us. Now, let us start our second finance conclave with our keynote speaker, Mr. Samar Kagalwala, Chief Marketing, Personal Banking and Media, AU Small Finance Bank, who will share his wisdom about the role of FinTech in financial inclusion and integration. I would like to call upon Hitakshi to tell us something more about Mr. Samar Kagalwala. Hitakshi?
Yes. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second Finance Conclave. I, Hitakshi Agrawal, MBA first year student, would like to welcome you on behalf of School of Business and Law, Navrachana University. I take this opportunity to welcome today's guest, Mr. Samar Kagalwala, Senior VP Marketing Personal Banking at AU Small Finance Bank, on the role of FinTech in financial inclusion and integration in India. He has completed his Bachelor of Management from Raheja College. Later on, he pursued his PGDM degree from Syscoms. He has worked as a Senior Vice President in Yes Bank, as an Assistant Vice President with RBL Bank, and as a Regional Marketing Manager in HDFC Bank. High energy marketing professional with over 14 years of experience developing and leading teams to define and deliver differentiated brand experiences that grow market share and build customer loyalty. It's an honor and a privilege for us, sir, to have you with us today. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Hitakshi. And, good afternoon to everyone who's viewing this conference. Good afternoon to Mr. Nilay, to our Professor Hitesh, and to entire, personnel on the call from Navrachana University. It's absolute pleasure to be here. honestly, if you tell me this is my first representation in a finance conclave, typically, we marketeers, or when we do so much of consumer study, we get tagged as marketers. But luckily, we work in banking, so we understand a bit of money, and that's what we are talking about. It's a very interesting topic that came to me. Honestly, this may be the second of my session in the fintech space, because like I again said, I do a lot of Martech talks, but doing fintech is very, very different, but very interesting space, because I've handled and I've worked in this space as part of the banking system. When this topic came to me, the first thing that it stuck was, why so much of importance to fintechs, and where does this whole hoopla about fintechs come from? What's that big thing?
Hello, Mr. Redmi Note, please mute your mic. And may I request you to unmute Mr. Samar, please? Organizer, Hitakshi or somebody.
No, sir.
Sorry, again you, yeah. Sorry, please continue, sir.
No worries. This happens every time. Absolutely no worries. I was just thinking, why is there so much of money being put into fintech? In fact, some of the fintechs are ready to get listed on stock exchange with one of the biggest IPOs ever into the Indian market. India always conventionally, had 100 crore population. We used to love calling that we are a country of people, But can we safely say that we were a country of 100 crore consumers? Maybe, maybe not, because the access of goods and services, typically which builds your products, was not in the equal proportion to the country at large. I'll give a very simple example. I'm a big follower of films. So, the whole country evolves from smaller things like films. For example, Mr. Nilay, Mr. Hitesh would agree that when there were films made in 60s, 70s, there used to be reels, correct? So, पहले reels आती थी बॉम्बे में, फिर जाता था सूरत तक या वडोदरा तक, फिर जाता था further down. By the time you could see movies, in the villages, that movie would have been 2 years or 3 years old, correct? That was the consumption pattern. Come technology, the entire release happens on same day. So what it does is, it gives equal opportunity for the 100 crore Indians to access the service in a similar format. It does not discriminate. Come to fintechs. In India, we lacked 3 things, which were the major drawbacks for boosting consumerism. The first was finance. Second was education. Third is health. If these 3 gets going, this 130 crore population that we talk about makes India the market that global countries or the countries abroad are looking for. So the first thing that government made inroads was to get finance liberated. The only way to get liberated was to get technology, because your PSU banks, your bigger banks had become so big that they could not become flexible. They could not afford risk, and they did not have the right distribution. India is a country of distribution, right? Today, you trust Amazon because it delivers to your place in the time that they tell. That's why you believe them. They can do that because they have the right distribution network. Besides all the technology that they follow, they have people who deliver you at the right time. So India as a country is a country of distribution. And fintech makes that piece its own piece, because fintech is completely dependent on technology on one end and the right kind of financial institutes on another. So if you ask me, what does fintech solve in a consumer's life? Because we have to talk about simple things, right? We all are consumers first, and then we are bankers, then we are tech experts. We are consumers first. And 3 things it solves. If you understand these 3 things, broadly, you will be able to place which fintech does what and what is the role of that fintech, correct? It gives ease. it gives ease to access, it gives ease to credit, it gives ease to payments, but it provides ease to a consumer. Second, it gives you experience. प्रोडक्ट मिलना एक बात है, पर प्रोडक्ट को एक्सपीरियंस करना और उसको एनहांस करना एक दूसरी बात है. FinTech gives you that because tech gives you that liberty to give the experience the way you want and the way you want to deliver to a consumer. Because personalization of experience and with the whole data getting to the next level is what FinTechs work on. And third is enhanced reach. You will be surprised that the kind of access or the kind of facilities that today people in the tier 1, tier 2 and rural India have started to get is not even a joke, just because they have one app on their mobile. And that opens up a plethora of market. That app is a window to a consumer's life. And finally, every product is designed for a consumer. It is extremely important to understand this, that when you open a window into consumer's life, you are opening up a different markets. There are so many markets within us, right? And FinTech plays a critical role because for everything you require money. So if I have to then go into what is the scope of, or what is the state of FinTech, or what does the FinTech cover? So I was thinking of FinTech and the experience of FinTech in my own life. And when you're talking about financial inclusion, you're basically talking of getting more people access to formal finance, correct? And that's what you talk about in inclusion into in the layman's term. So today morning, and this is a very interesting, I was just trying to understand what is the role of FinTech that it's playing in my life. Correct? We always sit on the other side and create products for consumers, but we all are consumers in our own life. So let's understand where it comes from. So in the morning when I was going, I was coming from home, I had to pay some toll. Correct? Previously it was cash. Now it is FASTag. Correct? FASTag is nothing but backed by technology. It's a transfer of money, automated transfer of money backed by technology using the scan. Correct? That's my first FinTech or the first experience of FinTech since morning. When I crossed and I reached my bank, I had some work, in the branch, but there was a heavy queue for some reason, and I had to, avail for some overdraft facility. So what I did was I accessed my app and I transferred some, some money from my overdraft account to the account which I wanted to utilize to pay. Correct? That app becomes another experience of FinTech in my life. My driver was, in the car and he wanted to buy a mobile. So today the access of, e-sellers and e-com platforms are so high in this, in the tier 2, tier 3 kind of population, that he immediately bought a mobile using an EMI option. So for him, he used FinTech to access lending. Today, there's someone in the country who's ready to take a risk for him because they have plethora of data to have confidence on him. Correct? That's the third experience of FinTech that you have in our lives. So in a span of 1 hour, you could experience 3 FinTech who played a very critical role in your life to enhance your experience by providing ease. And likewise, if you go to see, you will find tons of experiences that FinTechs create. So what does FinTech cover as a segment? We often try to restrict that to banking. FinTech matlab banking, payments, wallets. But FinTech definitely covers payments. It definitely covers banking. It goes into your lending. It goes into your wealth management. You have so many wallet aggregators. They read your expenses. They give you analysis that where are you spending more? Where can you restrict? What's your average monthly budget? What are your key sources of income? You get everything as a part of your wallet aggregator. Wallet aggregator is nothing but it aggregates the information from your device and gives you a scenario. It's a part of your FinTech ecosystem, correct? We often think that's an app, but app has to be part of some ecosystem which enhances your life, which makes your life easy, correct? So you have the entire wealth management, then comes to insurance. InsurTech is the next big thing in India. Insurance penetration in India is so low. We talk about the LICs of the world and the private insurance players. We are not even there up to 10% of the population of the life insurance front. So that's the opportunity that India has as far as the insurance as a segment goes. Today, when you sit in an Ola cab, you are insured at ₹1. Correct? That doesn't see whether you are rich, poor, you are old, young, it covers you at ₹1. So that's the access of insurance that's ACO has given, which is a FinTech to you. Correct? So insurance is a big segment. Come insurance, you have Zerodha. Zerodha has democratized retail investments. Today, the participation of millennials into the capital market has gone up 3x post some of these fintechs entering the field. So capital market is a big field, and the enhancement that's happening with fintech, the use of technology and data on capital advisory and capital market access is to a different level. But capital market is fintech. Small and medium businesses, today there are like, you tell every region will have a fintech who's accessing and giving credit to small and medium businesses. You have the entire payments ecosystem that services them. So small and medium businesses also becomes a part of your fintech ecosystem. And last but not the least, your real estate, your entire mortgage lending, transaction digitalization and financing platforms are part of fintech ecosystem. So when we're looking at this ecosystem as a prospective employee, or whether we are looking at this ecosystem from the scope of your understanding, let's look at the holistic ecosystem, because wallets and payments are just one part of it. Correct? You have the entire ecosystem to play with, and that's the fun. You know, when I was in a previous organization at Yes, we always thought of ourselves as a tech company who's doing banking. Never the reverse, because till you don't think technology first, you can never become a fintech, or you can never understand fintech as a community. So keeping that in mind, correct? So if I have to in brief tell you, fintech is a collaboration of finance and technology. So finance is banks, payments, NBFCs, security broking, wealth management, distribution. And on technology, you have hardware providers, software providers, cloud providers, and platform providers. This is what goes into a fintech. You have the financing angle and the information angle on one side, and you have the tech support on the other side. So again, when you're evaluating an ecosystem, please understand what goes into a fintech. And the only reason I'm dwelling so much into it is that you have amazing speakers who are going to follow me and will go into the depth of these things. You are someone from the lending side who's going to speak very much onto that. There's someone on the payment side who will go deep into these segments, correct? But my role and my job right now is to make you understand the opportunity that lies for all of us. And I would love if someone from Navrachana University who's so ready into this world of finance and technology to join our team as and when the opportunity arrives. Because today, we as employers, or we as people who look out for young talents, correct, we definitely look for digital first approach. Gone are the days when I used to ask, balance sheet padhni aati hai? तुम्हें पता है debit क्या होता है, credit क्या होता है? Definitely पता होना चाहिए. I'm not saying that's not required. But I would be more important to know, do you understand data? Do you understand how to implement the data? Correct? Do you understand the implement of data inside, if I have to be more specific? Do you know how to use technology? Do you understand technology stacks? Correct? Do we all know what is India stack made up of? Correct? So I thought I'll share a few, spend more time on these aspects so that the purpose of this conclave is not only giving knowledge, right, that is accessible to every one of us. The purpose of the knowledge sessions are also to build a mindset for you to be future ready. Correct? And that's where I think if we can play a bit of role as speakers, would we feel that we have achieved something? So if I have to talk about India Stack, because your entire FinTech is lying on India Stack, it starts with your consent layer. That's utilizing the power of data. That's a personal data store. Correct? Second is your cashless layer. Transition to cashless economy. Your IMPS, your AEPS, your UPI is nothing but your cashless layer. That is a layer where you don't spend cash and you do digital transaction. That's the cashless layer. Then you have a paperless layer where you don't submit paper to access finance, but you do it digitally. That's your eKYC, digital lockers, e-signatures are nothing but your paperless layer. And then comes your presence layer, where you don't have to be physically present, but you can use your biometric to access. This is the complete India stack. And if you see, your entire FinTech will fall in this stacks. You cannot have one stack loose and other stack strong. Imagine if there was no presence layer, but an amazing cashless layer. How would you identify yourself? I cannot come and show you Aadhaar card and then do a digital transaction. No? So understanding this stack in depth would be an amazing journey by yourself itself. And as students, you should be inquisitive as to how do we want to take it to the next level? What are the opportunities we see? You know, and that's where startups come up. That's where innovators grow. That's where entrepreneurs go, because they see opportunity in these stacks. I have come across a very, very interesting FinTech. And when I was talking about insurance, they are into more about InsurTech or health tech. One day, that founder was sitting in his office and he realized, yeah, in my office where people are working, they don't have insurance covers. Because who will pay 15,000 rupees, 20,000 rupees, 50-year-old person for a mediclaim health insurance if he doesn't have? Where would he get those monies from? And he said, why don't I develop a small ticket health program for employees of SMEs? So he's world's youngest actuarial. He understood underwriting. So he developed the first of its kind health program or a health subscription, which is on a monthly basis. It's like a Netflix of health. And it says that you need one number. I will cover your life. I will cover your medical. I will cover your accident. I will give you doctor consultation, all by paying 100 rupees per month. Now this opens up a new segment, which is contractual employees, laborers, and the blue collar workers. Now imagine the impact of this small gap analysis that a person did sitting in his office to the market that gets created. And that startup in the Series A raised 16 million with some of the best investors in the market. So that's the potential, guys. And the intent of coming today was only to talk about potential and the impact of a FinTech. So if I have to again, delve into what's the future of FinTech? Why are we talking so much about FinTech? So what does it lie in the future? Correct? Itna to ho gaya hai. Aur kitna? Correct? I just have some stats. I'll read out some opportunities that are there, which we have not even reached. Correct? And we'll understand. We all know about Jan Dhan accounts. Jan Dhan accounts has been like government's priority, and the numbers that are thrown is about 90-95% of people of India have accounts access. Fair enough. Correct? How many of them are active accounts? Only 14% of them. Correct? the penetration rates of financial products like mutual funds, insurance is sub 2% in these accounts, correct? Which is way below the global benchmarks, by the way. Out of this, the small businesses that we talk about, we say that nearly 1/3 of country's GDP is run by small businesses, right? About 60 odd million businesses that exist. There is a potential of about $300 to $350 billion of credit to these small, medium enterprises, which a FinTech today opens up. Like I said, insurance is not even 10% penetrated. I was very surprised. We were launching credit card at AU. And when we are researching the RBI numbers, only 6% of country's population has a credit card. Now imagine, we see so many ads, we see so many promotions, marketing, offers, festivals being run on spends. But credit card of that is only 6% of that. I may have 10 credit cards, but that's still one customer. So imagine with the kind of data, with the kind of open banking that's coming up, what is the potential of a simple credit card business? Leave everything else. And once credit card penetrates from even 6% to 10%, what it does to Indian consumer economy. Today, if you all read, there's a big hoopla about BNPL, buy now, pay later. What does that mean? It is nothing but that on the go, I am giving you a small ticket personal loan to take a product at a merchant's POS. This entire thing has come up because of pandemic. Today, the entire SME segment has struggled so much that, RBI thought it is important to open up this aspect so that more people can access credit, small ticket credit, but access credit, and the business can take off. So today, all big institutes have gone into the BNPL working, and that's a new era of consumer India that we are awaiting for. And when I'm saying all of this, it does not take into consideration your geographies. It does not take into consideration your background. It does not take into consideration your gender. It sees you as a consumer of India. And that's why FinTechs democratizes access to finance. And that's the most important aspect of FinTech. Otherwise, it has no use of it. We all would have heard about account aggregators. Account aggregators network that's coming up in India. Today, the participant banks are HDFC, Kotak, ICICI, Axis, SBI, IndusInd, and Federal. What does this account aggregator do? Why is it required? Correct? Important question to dwell, because what it's opening up, it is opening up open banking. When I say open banking is, once I give consent to be part of this account aggregator network, my information and my transactions data will be accessed by all these banks who are part of the aggregators. Now, why is it important? मैं क्यों मेरा data share करूं? It is not about your data. It is about your transacting patterns. It is about your behavior with the bank. Tomorrow, you have an account with one bank and you go to another bank for a loan. Currently, the risk become higher because you don't bank with them. Tomorrow, with this account aggregators network, the risk becomes lower, so that because they have access to your data. How do you benefit? You benefit with ease of credit and less of interest rate. That's what you require in a credit, right? Today, if I would be paying 10%, tomorrow, because they know me more, they'll charge me 8%. Now, imagine the implication of account aggregators network on this entire scheme of consumer lending industry. Because one of the most important aspects of that industry is know your customer or the underwriting risk factors that go with it. So it's important for every one of you to dwell into account aggregators network. It's a topic by itself. It's something which is, there's a separate team that's working in RBI only to develop this. Like we had payments, NPCI was developed to ease out payments. Now the government is working towards aggregating banks, aggregating information so that everyone is under one roof. Now imagine the scope that I'm talking, and if you can visualize कि आज एक कस्टमर को मैं लोन नहीं दे पा रहा हूं या दे पा रही हूं because I don't know that person and that person is really good. I'm missing that opportunity, correct? Because I don't know them. Tomorrow I will be able to give that access. Tomorrow, if I have to go to any new geography, I don't have to be worrying whether I have my branch there, I have my consumer there, I have my XYZ there. Everything will fall under account aggregators network. And if the entire population comes under that, which eventually is what the intent of the government, then we are moving towards open banking. Then the APIs, the sandbox, the data flows, because everything works on consent of the consumer. Today, the biggest challenge in data sharing is consent. And that's where this data privileges breach, data theft are coming up. And that's one of the biggest problems of FinTech. Let me also say that. Today, while fintechs are trying to compete with the banking ecosystem, somewhere the banking ecosystem is still more safe. Correct? Because you trust that bank, you know the brand. Fintechs are evolving. They have the best technology, but they do not have the brand to trust. So it's a very interesting mix between banking and technology that we're speaking about today. You have your advantages, and the good part about it, but there are a lot of areas where it needs to work out. But if you see a very simple example, Book My Show, correct, or any of these aggregator platforms, when you used to do transactions 6 years back, there were two modes of payment: debit card, credit card. Then came net banking. Then came UPI. Then came wallets. Then came EMI on the go. Now there's BNPL that's coming up. So you have now 8 modes of transaction, which was only 2. Cash is out. Previously, there used to be an option of cash, pay on delivery, which is almost negligible now because unfortunately we had something called as COVID. And fortunately for this industry, COVID was the biggest boon. So if I have to, delve into, like I said, the future of FinTech, we have a critical mass for partnership-led growth. Guys, this world is about partnership and collaborations. This world is not about working in silos. And trust me, when you go into the corporate world, the more you get into the partnership mode, internal as well as external, the faster is the growth. A very simple example, we all would have heard about Jupiter Money, correct? It's one of the most fastest growing FinTech in the banking space. They don't have their own branches, right? But they have almost 1 million customers who have opened accounts through them. What they have done is they collaborated with banks. They gave facilities what the banks couldn't derive. So they're working on the collaboration model. On the other side, if I have to give an example, State Bank of Mauritius has hardly any branches, but they are one of the fastest growing MNCs in the country. Their model is very clear. We will only do collaboration and partnerships. Today, even in a bank like AU or in a bank like Yes, 50% of the portfolio on the liability side is from a partnership-based sourcing. So it is important to see where your technology can take you through. And when I'm saying partnership, of course, your data, your underwriting, your risk, your tech support, everything comes into play. Customer experience, these all are managed. This is part of the FinTech ecosystem that we discussed. But the end result is partnership and collaborations that helps you grow faster. Correct? As a salesperson or the person who is very interested in business development, let's not restrict ourselves to one sort of selling models. A partnership, collaboration-based selling models is the next leap that businesses will have to take. So we have to be ready for it. We need to understand this, what goes into it. There's an extremely strong momentum on supply chain digitization. When I say supply chain digitization is the chain of product consumption is completely going digital. For example, previously your kirana wala, and this is absolutely COVID impact. Previously your kirana wala only used to do cash. Credit card भी नहीं लेता था, बोलता था अरे 2.5% extra लगेगा, 2% extra लगेगा. Correct? Come COVID and post COVID, today he's part of Amazon. Today he has a WhatsApp number where he tells you to place orders. He gives you his GPay number to make the payment. So entire supply chain of consumer product distribution has started to accept digital payment solutions. When that happens, the entire data of that consumer is available for the partners to assess him for credit. Today at AU, when we work in tier 2, tier 3 cities, we do cash flow based lending. And that's the new thing that's coming up, right? We hardly see balance sheets, even in SMBs, because balance sheets may not be proper, but you evaluate the cash flows to decide on the power of the business. These things help you to give easy credit to a small enterprise. So imagine a simple adoption of QR code is helping him give loans, showing that his business is doing very good. The world is now paying attention towards India, and that's a big thing because you need investments. Finally, fintechs need money to keep themselves sustained and keep themselves grow. There's nothing without money, right? You cannot grow without money. Today, the world is investing in India, and particularly the fintech world, so that it becomes an example to the international markets. The entire model of UPI, which is done by NPCI, has been followed in European countries. That's the power of technology of India. When we talk about India Stack, this is what India Stack can deliver. And the biggest thing about fintechs is, and the last point that I can, tell before I end my session is, from a marketing angle, when I see what role fintech plays in consumers' mind, it helps them reduce their anxiety. Reducing anxiety is the biggest boon of a fintech. And the future is only going to grow faster. The more adapt we are, the more understanding we are, the more better it is for the students who's coming out of Navrachana universities to adapt to the evolved world. Last 2 years has given a dynamic and a paradigm shift into the corporate world. Digital first thinking is the game. If we are not there, we will not survive. And that includes me also. Tomorrow, if I have to evolve in my career, I have to understand the new space of digital to keep myself abreast. So with that, I again thank you for the opportunity. And I hope that little bit dragged, but I thought that the session requires a little bit of more insight into the ecosystem of fintech and the opportunity of fintech for the students to benefit. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and I hope I could do a little bit of justice.
Thank you, sir, for your insights into this important topic that will be very much beneficial to us. Now let's move on to our next speaker, Mr. Jinan Shah, Managing Director at Online PSB Loans. Mr. Jinan Shah will be speaking on Can FinTech help India to reach 5 trillion GDP economy? I would like to call upon H.G. to share with us milestones of our speaker. H.G.
Thank you, Meghavi. Good afternoon, everyone. I, H.C. Shah, a first-year MBA student, would like to welcome our next speaker, Mr. Jinan Shah, who is an experienced director with a demonstrated history of working in the Indian financial sector industry. He has a very influencing personality with excellent leadership skills. He's an entrepreneur of Online PSB Loans, which was the biggest winner of PM Modi's Loan in 59 Minutes plan. He also has a strong educational background in the field of finance and accounting. He's skilled in tax, fundraising, accounting, and management. He has completed his post-graduation in commerce with specialization in accounting from Gujarat University. He's also an FCA from ICAI and is currently a managing director at Online PSB Loans. Mr. Jinan Shah is going to speak on the topic, Can FinTech help India to reach 5 trillion GDP economy? It's an honor to have you here, sir. We wholeheartedly welcome you. Over to you, sir.
Jinan, most welcome to Navrachana University. And thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, it's Shri. Hope I am audible.
Yeah, very, very clear. Jinan, just give me one second, because I was unable to unmute myself. So I just wanted to thank Samar. Samar, you went so smoothly and so easily. You explained the terminologies and concepts and integrated the entire, the thought of this session. So I just wanted to thank you. I'm sure a lot of students here in this session and a lot of them are on YouTube also. I'm sure they really enjoyed and they came to know that very easily that the way you expressed it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting, and it's absolute pleasure.
Right.
Yes, thank you so much, Samar. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Very interesting lecture. Very interesting talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I too agree. Thank you so much. I think the example what you gave regarding the startup, where there is a lot of space and you do not have to have really, a technical background to get into this fintech sector regarding that insurance. I think that was phenomenal. That was very encouraging. And I'm pretty sure students have a lot of takeaway, and the overall, the session was overarching. That's a very broad topic, and I think you have touched upon all the minute aspects which can cover the topic. I think thank you very much for giving really powerful insight in such a short period. Thank
you so much, Nikita. That's really kind of you. Thank you so much. Had a really good time.
You can always look forward a career in teaching also. You have that knack.
No, I really salute all of you. The patience that you have, I don't think I have that patience.
No, that's a different issue, but you have.
No, that's the most critical issue for me.
The way you came across, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's really kind of you.
Thank you. Sorry, Jinan, I had to interrupt because because of technology we were unable to unmute ourselves. So I just took a moment to thank Samar. So over to you, Jinan. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so lot of things that Samar told, I also listed down, and very interesting ones. So I'll touch up during my discussion also.
Sure.
The thing is, I'll try that by 3:15. I'll be done because I have another meeting lined up at around 3:30. So broadly, my core discussion today will revolve around this $5 trillion GDP. Right, which is always being talked about, right?
Yes.
And when we talk about this $1 trillion economy of India going to that, everyone has questions around it. So while I'll answer things on my own, I understand this is a forum where people can also put their questions, right, in the chat box. Is that possible?
Yes. They can do that. Yes.
Yeah, so I'll enjoy if there are questions coming, so that it's not like I am saying and I don't know whether the audience is listening or not. All of you who have questions, please post the questions. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. I'll try to justify as much as possible in this time frame. While I'll talk more on the segment where our expertise is, I'll try to keep it as simple as possible. So there are a lot of big jargons that we can speak of, right? I can say of OCAN framework. I can say of digitization. Means there are a lot of things that we talk around, but as Gujaratis, a lot of us try to make it as simple words as possible. Then only we understand. If we talk about a lot of technical words, we might try to skip those words and we try to ask, what does this mean? So broadly, I'll talk about FinTech. FinTech does not mean that it has tech as its core. It has finance also as its core, and I'll not go deep into it. All of us know it. My background is not a tech person. My background is more of a finance person. I've been a chartered accountant, CFA. So it's more of finance. But numbers is what I've learned over my entire career, and I've loved it. So all those who are interested in numbers, or those who like to bring logics in things that you are doing into, FinTech is something you should look into. It gives that impetus to you, right? So what are the core things of FinTech you should be looking into? One is lending. Second is payments. Payments is something that is driving today's economy. If you would be looking into how the UPI movement has driven, a lot of us would be making payments through Google Pay, Paytm, PhonePe, all of this. That is nothing but because of UPI, it has gone to this level. So payments has been the first forefront of reaching the economy, which will be a $5 trillion economy. Second is going to be lending, because payments is enabled today. Payments is penetrating extremely fast. All of us are having multiple apps with us, which is allowing us to make payment even of 1 rupee digitally. WhatsApp has now come up with digital payments. Lending is the next revolution. So these two are the pillars that will help us reach where we have to reach. But the enablers of these pillars are multiple. So one key enabler which we all should know. So this is a word called as NPCI. Those who don't know NPCI, please Google it and read everything about NPCI. That is the institution that has led payments to where we are, right? So NPCI is an infra company. Now there are multiple banks. So if you look into does the payment happen from banks? How does those payment happen? Is there a backend infrastructure? Now, if there are backend infrastructures, who are involved in these backend infrastructures? We talk about UPI, who has built that entire infrastructure. So look into that NPCI whenever you get time. That is the player that is digitizing the entire payment revolution that is happening today in India. Understand what infrastructures are being built, how the payments are getting processed, how your IDs are getting created, what is the logic behind creating those IDs, and how it is secure. So these are all the questions, though it cannot be answered in 20 minutes. These are the questions that should come into your mind when you are talking about digital payments, rather than just using an app to make a payment of 10 rupee or 30 rupee or 50 rupee. When you are making the payment, see how your ID is created, see how your friends' IDs are created, right? And then look into the logic, who has built these IDs. So unless you go into the logic behind how this infrastructure is created, you will never be the brain, you will always be the user. We always categorize users or people into two segments whenever we talk about internally at our team also. One is that user who is a creator, and second is that user who is going to be the user of what has been created. So creators are always going to be the brain behind anything that comes into existence, right? So what is it that you like? Do you enjoy going in the market? Do you enjoy talking to people? Do you enjoy exploring it? Or do you enjoy creating something? So if you are the one who is enjoying creating something, then you should be looking into or following something where the companies are the infrastructure creator companies. So today when we talk about infrastructure, we just say that, okay, port is an infrastructure, airport is an infrastructure, railways is an infrastructure. So these are all physical infrastructures. Now we are moving into another leg, which calls about digital infrastructures. And payment has already reached the milestone. Globally, India has become #1 now, where number of payment transactions and the volume of payment transactions that are happening today, post this UPI revolution today, India has gone to #1. So this is something, how that payment infrastructure has been enabled has to be understood by you to actually leverage that payment infrastructure. So if you tomorrow want to have your own startup, or you are joining any company going forward, you should be knowing the base logic. And if you want to join any fintechs and you want to be in the brain of those fintechs, you should be good with those logics. So this is the first thing. So if we have to reach to a 5 trillion economy, these core infrastructures which are getting built. So one is the physical infrastructure, which everyone talks about. And second is the digital infrastructure. And when we talk about digital infrastructure for payments, NPCI is the key. Similarly, now people are moving towards lending. All the banks, all the institutions, a lot of players are moving towards lending. We are also moving towards creating that infrastructure in lending. Lending infrastructure is not that simple. Payment infrastructure is, I have to make a payment to you and that is over. But lending infrastructure is not that simple. So lending infrastructure has multiple blocks in it. And unless you get money in your pocket, you won't be able to have that business where your economy will grow, right? So for growth of economic, availability of credit is key. And second, availability of equity is key. So you can put in your own money, you can borrow the money from the banks. Now for putting in your own money or putting in an equity money, you need an infrastructure. So whether we have that infrastructure ready in the country. So that is where a lot of work is being going on today, where there are players like Digital India, there is Invest India. All these are working on creating an infrastructure which will enable the equity flow in a faster way. Today, if you all want to know what is the success ratio of getting an equity investor, if you ask any VC fund, if you ask any PE fund, how many transactions do you look into before you give a equity investment or you do an equity investment? Normally the ratio would come around 2%, 3%. So out of 100 transactions that they are evaluating, 2 or 3 get funded by that fund. That is the success ratio. So far as the credit, that is the debt funding or the loans that are given to businesses, the ratios goes around 20%, 25%, right? So that is how the ratios today are. Now, if you build an infrastructure, the way payment infrastructure has come up, unless the lending infrastructure and the credit infrastructure and the equity infrastructure comes up, the businesses are not going to grow very fast. The businesses growth will happen the same way it has been growing. So that is where digital infrastructure in lending, everyone is moving towards it. So the products similar to buy now, pay later, the products similar to EMI based financing, these are all personal finance, right? When you talk about personal finance and you have to talk about business finance. So there are two things. Personal finance normally is looked as non-productive finance in the country, and business finance is looked upon as a productive finance in the country, right? Now, productive finance is where the GDP can grow. So if you have businesses that are growing, that have got money in the pockets, and those businesses are able to grow their business, that is where the economy will also grow. That is one of the reasons that government had come out with schemes such as ECLGS. I don't know how many of you know it. ECLGS is like emergency credit line given to all the MSMEs of the country, right? And there is a huge target of giving around 2 lakh crore rupees under this scheme, right? Now this is very, very big as we talk about. The simple thing is, if you have a business, if you had a loan and come COVID, you were supposed to default, right? Because in COVID, everyone was in problem. So you won't be able to pay your installments. And if you don't pay your installment, you become NPA. And if you become NPA, then you are in serious trouble because every bank will look upon you down. To come out of this, government came out with a good scheme, which is called as ECLGS, where you get additional money on the loan that is outstanding. So this helped the businesses to move out of a cash trap. So that scheme had to be created really well so that the businesses do not end up becoming NPA. Otherwise, our economy, which we are targeting that we want to reach to a $5 trillion economy, most of the businesses would have been in problem today. So all the businesses that had debt, they would have gone into a debt trap. Right? So overcoming this debt trap, ECLGS and similar schemes were announced by government. So if you want to look into that how the economy is going to grow, this is one of the key things, that you cannot allow the businesses to fall. The key thing for businesses to run is, one is having the demand, and second is having the money. So even if you have the demand, you don't have the money, it will be difficult for you to fulfill the demand. And even if you have the money, don't have the demand, your money will stay idle. So both things are critical for creating a $5 trillion economy. Now, having the money is something that can be enabled through a digital infrastructure, which all the banks, financial institutions, including our company, are working very, very closely. Second is creating the demand. Government is right now very, very inclined in creating e-marketplaces for businesses also. So all the government institutions, there is something called as GEM, G-E-M, Government E-Marketplace. Every government organization, whether state or central government, has been asked to register in this platform. You have to understand how this platform works also, because if you want to look into how the businesses can grow, this kind of platforms are going to be the platforms that will enable the businesses to grow. So this GEM platform has all the buyers which are government buyers. So tomorrow, if I want to sell to a government, if I am a seller, I can register on GEM platform and I can sell on GEM platform directly to government without going to the government desks. The order comes digitally, the payment comes digitally, right? And even if I need finance, my finance comes digitally. So this kind of platforms which are coming as infrastructure for the country are going to help the country to create the demand. So Amazons are increasing the businesses for a lot of MSMEs. Flipkart is increasing business for a lot of MSMEs, and a lot of ground level works are going on today. But digital infrastructure similar to a lot of these players, including government e-marketplaces, are going to help the businesses. The other leg, which is very critical, where we are working and our expertise is also there, and most of the banks are working, is creating a productive financing infrastructure for the MSMEs. How can, say, tomorrow a person who is selling vegetables and coming to your house to sell vegetables, if he wants 500 rupees in the morning, right? And he sells all the vegetables and he wants to make the payment of 500 at the end of the day. Is there any infrastructure which can help to make to give a loan of 500 in the morning and recover the loan of 500 in the evening without charging like 10% per month kind of rate of interest, right? So today the rate of interest, if that person needs 500 rupees, he goes to someone who says, okay, you take 500 rupees in the evening, pay me 550, and he would happily take 500, pay 550, and he's actually paying 10% for that day, right? So that is how it is happening. So his margins reduce. Can you make it effective? Can you make it better? Can that vegetable vendor get 500 in the morning and pay 501 rupee in the evening? Is that possible? Is that interest rate possible? It is called as cash flow based financing, right? So when a lot of people talk about cash flow based financing, it is nothing but as simple as this. I have a cash flow of say 600 at the end of the day. I need 500 today morning. Can I get that 500? If yes, that infrastructure is enabling a cash flow based financing, right? And if no, that means it's a limit based financing. Okay, so I'll not go into technical details of limit based financing, but cash flow based financing is going to help the economy reach a $5 trillion economy. Wherever the economy is today, it is because of a manual way of giving funds to MSMEs to grow. As we go into digital way of giving funds, this is where it is going to go. Say tomorrow I need money, I have multiple. So there is one use case that is coming up, which might come up say in another 3 months or 6 months down the line. You say I am registered with GST. I am having say 50 invoices of my business today with GST. And those 50 invoices are they registered in GST and the other person is taking credit on those invoices. Can I get an invoice based finance just based on my GST invoice? Can I say I have made these 50 invoices of say 1 lakh rupee each and I need finance against those 20 invoices? Can I get finance against those 20 invoices? If yes, then there is an infrastructure that is needed. And now again, if you talk about how to create that infrastructure, I'll tell 10 names, which will sound like jargons to you. I'll tell you need a public rate registry, you need an account aggregator framework, you need an open framework, you need an open bridge, LSP app, LSP rule engine, and all of you will say, what are you talking about? We don't understand. So in simple terms, if I tell, if in simple terms, how in Gujarat people speak is that what do you need? You need an infrastructure which allows a person to make payment, and this infrastructure would have something like a CIBIL integrated, something that has an NPCI integrated so that whenever I need to recover money, I can automatically recover money. There has to be something where my bank system is integrated with this infrastructure so that disbursements happen digitally, right? So that is an integration. So there are similarly around 8-10 integrations that are required. If all these integrations are there, that means the businesses can grow with a real-time flow of money that can come to you. Now, again, this is not as simple as it is said. This infrastructure is getting created since last 2-3 years. It will take another 2 years. That is what is estimated. But while this infrastructure is getting created, another 6 months, you should be seeing a lot of use cases coming up in the market, which are focused on businesses. Because if economy has to grow, the businesses have to grow. And if businesses have to grow, as I told, two things are critical: the liquidity with the businesses and the demand for the businesses to deliver the goods. So these are the two things where infrastructure, digital infrastructure is going to help. Physical infrastructure, India has a huge physical infrastructure which is getting further extended by a lot of new infrastructure coming up. But the demand is critical and the liquidity is critical. There are few things which you all should know, and which you all, because you all are interested in FinTech, you all are interested in having your careers, or some of you are looking forward for tech driven initiatives, finance related initiatives. Few things I was listing down as I was there 10 minutes early was that you need to understand entirely about NPCI. You should have a thorough understanding of how NPCI works, how the infrastructure is created by NPCI and how it is leveraged. Second thing you need to look into is there is something called as account aggregator framework that is coming up, which in previous session also it was told that account aggregator will be a game changer if it succeeds. It is an infrastructure, it takes years. If you want to, if you look into, because all of you understand are BBA, MBA students, right? So if you look into a payback model, any infrastructure as a payback model, infrastructure model, say like a port, would have a payback of 8 to 10 years minimum. So you don't get a payback, say in second year, you don't get profit, in third year, you don't get profit, right? It takes 8 to 10 years to get profit when it's an infrastructure build, right? Another point which you need to look into is something called as KYC. The regulations around KYC. If you can build something, if you have ideas how KYC digitization is happening in this country, there are a lot of ifs and buts, and there are a lot of things where RBI is looking for also solutions of digital KYC. There is OKYC, there is CKYC, there is video KYC, there is multiple ways of KYC which has come out. So if you can have a thorough understanding of KYC, why there is a blockage of KYC in the country, and which can be the possible solution. RBI has various sandboxes that are coming up where you can actually register and give your ideas for KYC, which can help RBI also to look into those things. So that is where as students you should look into. The next is cash flow based lending. As I explained, a vegetable vendor, you have to understand cash flow based lending in detail. The next is something called as an API based infrastructure. API based infrastructure is something, if you guys are interested in FinTech, you have to understand it really well. An infrastructure of this country, which is a digital infrastructure, which can be the base of the country reaching a $5 trillion economy, is that it has to have an infrastructure that is API based. So when you think about account aggregator, when you think about other things, NPCI, UPI, everything, it is an API based infrastructure. API in simple words, data can flow from one place to another place without hindrances. Consent based framework which uses API as the base. So if you guys understand that, you guys try to understand and learn that concept in detail. Consent based framework and API based infrastructure. So just 3:15 is already done. The one or two more points that you should know as you grow is something called as RBI's sandbox. You should understand what are the initiatives that can be registered in RBI sandbox. It comes with a lot of new things you can learn. If your idea is registered, it's extremely good. If not, you learn from it. So RBI sandbox is something you should look into. There is OCEN framework that is coming up. OCEN. OCEN framework is something you should learn. You should try to Google it, try to understand OCEN framework. There will be videos that will be there. So OCEN is something that is for democratizing credit in the country, that is coming up. REBIT guidelines is something you should know. REBIT guidelines are RBI guidelines that have come up. So while all of you have learned a lot of things in your BBA, MBA, BTech courses or other courses that you are doing in the institution, but these are some things which are new, which you should know. When you go out in the market, you talk about fintechs. If you know these words, if you have better understanding, you keep on asking questions, you keep on learning, then you will actually be at par whenever you go to any fintech, because in fintechs, this is the language that people talk, right? So fintechs can definitely help for India to reach, but it's an infrastructure that is mandatory for the country to reach a $5 trillion GDP. And for getting this infrastructure, lot of things are getting created today. I just listed a few for you all for understanding it. As it's already past 3:15, if you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, I think I am probably fine with my explanation for today. Hitesh bhai and
yeah, Jinan. So I think you know, in the last part of your talk, you pointed out some important terminologies and concepts which are very relevant for those who wish to make a career in these areas. So I'm thankful that you brought these to you know, this particular platform. You know, on behalf of students, maybe they can get some understanding. If you can highlight that how government is serious about going forward with the consumption-based economy. So on one side, there is Make in India and other things going on to boost the production. But since you come from a loan industry, lending industry, how do you see this consumption-led economy's future in order to achieve this $5 trillion target that government has set?
So we keep on. So we are one of those lucky players, you know, where we have the banks as our partners or our stakeholders. So there are a lot of things that we build. We have a lot of internal discussions going on with the top banks of the country. We have a lot of discussions going on with the government on what is being built, how the infrastructure has to be created to enable the consumption-based industry that we are talking about. The two critical things which always comes during our discussion is one is on creating that demand and another is on creating the liquidity. So both are critical. So while I just gave a sample example of GEM that is there, the other things, because it's government's philosophy is minimum government and maximum governance, right? So they don't want to enter as government. They would like to create those enablers, create that infrastructure. We are also coming out with a new infrastructure which will help the rural India to get the liquidity. So while we are working on one leg of liquidity for creating that consumer base, so that's something that's going to be launched.
Right.
So possibly in next 2-3 weeks you will get to know that part also. On the other part is related to creating that demand. So that infrastructure is being dealt with another team that is working on the same. But yes, the efforts are on. The core focus is today on creating the infrastructure. So government's core focus is create the infrastructure, roll it out. The players then take it to the market and the players leverage. So all the players can leverage. This can be all the startups of India. While a lot of startups benefited from payment or insurance because that infrastructure is being rolled out by the government. So focus of the government is to build the infrastructure and roll it out. It's how the economy takes it positively, but it takes time for infrastructure to be successful. But yes, that is how, if it is implemented today, means you get all the things for being successful, for creating the consumption, for creating the liquidity. You cannot, you can take, as we all say, you can take the horse to the pond. No, you cannot make it drink the water.
Of course.
So the things will be given, are being created, are being given, liquidity is being rolled out, a lot of schemes are coming up. Ultimately, players have to take it up. Right?
Exactly.
So it cannot be forcefully fed.
Yeah, but you and your company and your sector foresees that rural economy would be a big contributor in this target in the future.
Yeah. So for us,
infrastructure coming up, and yes.
So if you consider the only platform that has rolled out digital mudra loans up to 10 lakh rupees, starting from 10,000 rupees, is to give that liquidity digitally in 59 minutes to people who are in rural India also. And next we are rolling out even lesser amount, right, for the livelihood missions, for other missions of the government where liquidity will be available.
Of course.
So liquidity will be available.
And one last thing, with your experience and you're working in this sector, have you noticed that all these things and digitalization and the contribution of FinTech, has it brought down the corruption and the black money gradually, or has there been any empirical evidences that has come across to you?
So again, when we talk about corruption and when we talk about black money, these are all big things. What I will say is, yes, digitally, if it is an end-to-end digital,
yes,
means there is no corruption.
Exactly. So that
it eliminates corruption.
Of course.
So if an infrastructure enables end-to-end digitization, corruption is enabled, is disabled completely. And second, you talk about is black money. So black money is a different ball game where you have to track a lot of transactions, because today, if cash is available in bank account and you are transacting, say 10,000 rupees, 15,000 money, which is cash money, right? It can have a black money, or it can be a white money, right? But to figure out whether it is black or white is something
that's a different
kind of tools to figure it out. Whether
but at least these things have at least shifted from cash to paper economy. That has been a big
things have shifted from cash to formal economy, but whether these are still in the nature of black or white,
that is not
to evaluate it. So there's a big game for analytics and algorithms for
yes. So that is another area where people can look forward to a good career ahead.
In fact, our collaboration with Mazars, one of these areas will be this.
Yes.
Spotting of transactions, finding a needle in a haystack, through data mining and such things.
Yeah. So algorithms, analytics, team that is working on this, understanding it, actually it will help to bring out something, as you told, needle in a haystack. Earlier it was impossible, but with all these things, you can actually figure out a lot of things which you would never have been able to achieve earlier.
Exactly. Thank you, Jinan, so much for all your time from your busy schedule.
Thank you.
Over to the MOC.
Yeah, thank you, Jinan. I think that was a very impressive and powerful starting you made. You asked students to ask questions, I think that was phenomenal. I'll definitely ask them to go back, because this is all recorded on YouTube. So go back and check what are the questions and how they should think I think that is going to be the key learning from this session. And thank you once again for sparing time and enlightening every one of us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for a stimulating presentation, which will really help us to look into this topic with a different dimension. So moving on to our last but not the least speaker, Ms. Monica Jasuja, FinTech Payments and Digital Economy Strategist, who will be speaking on using enhanced user experience in financial sector. I would like to invite Aneri to share with us some more about Ms. Monica.
Aneri, can you unmute yourself? Okay. Do we have Dhruv?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Dhruv, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I, Dhruv Sharma, first year MBA student, would welcome you all to the second financial conclave. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our next speaker for today's Miss Monica Jasuja, Head of Product Management at Conclave. She is a fintech fanatic, having an experience of over 20 years in the digital payment spaces like PayPal and MasterCard. She was also awarded 100 Digital Influencer 2020 and having international exposure in multiple markets like USA, Singapore, Taiwan, and India. She did her BA in mathematics from Lady Shri Ram College, New Delhi, and her master's in computer science from University of Illinois at Urbana. Over to you, ma'am.
Are you able to unmute, madam, yourself? Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Hitesh, and thank you so much for the opportunity to everyone who's listening in. I'd like to share my screen. Hitesh, would you be able to provide me the rights?
Yes, we will give you.
Sure. It'll probably take about a 30 to 40 second introduction. Yes.
And before you begin, just once again,
you can share.
Thank you so much, Monica ma'am, for accepting the invitation. Though we don't know personally, but virtually we came in connect with each other, and I'm so grateful that you accepted this and you are here with us and helping our students to understand the topic better and be part of this conclave. Thank you so much, ma'am.
It's my absolute pleasure.
And we have with us our Vice Chancellor of the University also, Professor Nilay Yajnik. He is kind enough to spare his time and be part of this conclave.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us today. And all of us, faculty, students, all of us, me too. We look forward to hearing your talk and learning from you. Thank you.
That is pressure, but I would like to be able to believe that I should be able to manage. So just 1 second, I'm just sharing my screen now, and you should be able to hear. Okay, here we go. Let me know when you're able to see my.
Yes, it is coming up.
Just probably another second.
You're almost there.
Okay, just 1 second. Okay. Typical tech glitches, but those two are not to be accounted for. So let me get started as I talk. First of all, welcome students. Thank you so much for sparing your time to listen to me. This is something I really love doing. So obviously it's a great pleasure to be here with you all. I'd like to discuss about using tech solutions to enhance end user experience in financial services and the best examples that I could find which are relational. So therefore, rather than a lecture or about a talk, this is going to be very interactive, and hopefully the experience is going to be such that each one of you should be able to relate to it. And that's the only thing I'd like to leave you with at the end of the session. So why don't we get started? So first things first, I'm available on LinkedIn and on Twitter. I will share a lot of financial services news and of course, everything that is really dear to me, which is product management, fintech and payments. So please do give me a follow. Also look out for me and content. I'd love to be able to answer your questions as well at any point in time. If you need to reach me, then Hitesh sir has my email address. Happy to answer questions for you. And I hope that many of you will be taking to fintech and payments and will be creating careers for yourself. This is an area of expertise and passion for many of us, but to see such young students take an opportunity to learn, this truly makes me very, very happy. So why don't we get started by a small, simple thing to start off this discussion. So how many of you have actually used Paytm? If you have, please do use the emoticon section at the bottom of your screens and just send me an emoticon or raise your hand so we know. That would be wonderful. So this is the Paytm soundbox that you normally hear when we try to pay with a Paytm on any merchant store, and it basically just translates what you have done and it says 200 rupees received, etc., etc. Why don't we try to take and understand why and what this really means with a small video. Let me know if you're able to hear this.
Namaste. Namaste.
Are you able to hear?
Yes.
Is everything good?
Yes, audible.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Sure. Let's start. Just a second.
मेरा नाम है किशोरीलाल शुक्ला। ये है मेरी दुकान और ये है मेरा मैजिक बॉक्स, पेटीएम साउंड बॉक्स। जब कोई ग्राहक पेमेंट करता है तो ये साउंड बॉक्स मुझे तुरंत पेमेंट की कंफर्मेशन देता है।
पेटीएम पर 200 रुपए प्राप्त हुए।
देखा, अब अगर मैं दुकान पर ना भी रहूं, तो भी पेमेंट कंफर्मेशन के लिए राजू को मुझे फोन नहीं करना पड़ता।
पेटीएम पर 750 रुपए प्राप्त हुए।
जब दुकान पर ज्यादा भीड़ हो जाती है, जैसे महीने की शुरुआत में या किसी त्योहार पर, तब यह साउंड बॉक्स बड़ा काम आता है।
पेटीएम पर 50 रुपए प्राप्त हुए।
मैसेज चेक करने की जरूरत ही नहीं पड़ती। पेटीएम पर हुए सारे पेमेंट्स का पता लग जाता है और ग्राहक को भी कोई कंफ्यूजन नहीं होता। एक और फायदा ये हुआ कि हमारे पुराने कस्टमर्स जो आते हैं, उनसे पेमेंट का मैसेज दिखाने को भी नहीं कहना पड़ता।
पेटीएम पर 475 रुपए प्राप्त हुए।
इसे इस्तेमाल करने के लिए वाईफाई की भी जरूरत नहीं। और हाँ, एक और मजे की बात बताऊं, साउंड बॉक्स के आने से दुकान में थोड़ा एंटरटेनमेंट बढ़ गया है।
पेटीएम पर 1250 रुपए प्राप्त हुए। पेटीएम पर 50 रुपए 50 पैसे प्राप्त हुए। पेटीएम पर 1750 रुपए प्राप्त हुए।
तो अब अमाउंट का कंफ्यूजन नहीं, पेमेंट एसएमएस का वेट नहीं। लाभ उठाइए पेटीएम साउंड बॉक्स का। हर घर का, देश भर का पेटीएम।
So if you look at this video, it actually helps create this experience of this wonderful sound innovation. But if you really look at the background and what this really is, it's nothing but a SIM card, which is right now inserted within an apparatus, which we've had for the longest period of time. It nicely connects to the internet. Therefore, you don't need a dial-up. You don't need a separate Wi-Fi connection, nothing. Now, when this person says, I don't need a separate internet connection, see how essentially easily you are able to communicate what exactly is the value proposition. It's a box which has sound component, and therefore it speaks out the transactions that are happening. What it didn't show to you was even something else. It has multiple language support. It enables the merchant to ask a simple question. Can you tell me the last 10 transactions? Now, this is the perfect example of how user experience is changing the face of financial services, and was the most relatable case I could come up with, other than, of course, making a payment, which I'm sure as students you're already doing. But here is an example in which a merchant payment experience, which has been fraught with a lot of issues. First of all, fraud, because people used to show screenshots. So one of the most famous examples that happened during demonetization, where there were no notes allowed, was the fact that a Golgappa seller had a Paytm logo and a Paytm QR code, which was hanging on his stall. He used to say that he started complaining that he's not receiving money. So when they actually asked him what was happening, people used to come to his stall, show him the same screenshot of 20 rupees and say the payment is done. So Paytm introduced actually this verified blue colored symbol, which used to flash. So this used to indicate that this flashing means that this is a live screenshot. If there is no screenshot, this is a live user screen. After which this was introduced. While it comes at a cost, this was an incremental progress in order to ensure that that small Golgappa seller, who may not be able to understand, who's trying to deal with a lot of customers, still has the ability to be able to manage this user experience. So if there's one thing that this tells us is, please do understand that it is not always that you innovate for your customer. Sometimes the customers are asking for innovation and you are forced to innovate. And this is a prime example. Now, if you ask me, this could have been done by the banks, it could have been done by multiple organizations, but it didn't happen. The reason is because QR code, it was in its infancy back in the days. When it took off, only through the period of time were we able to understand really what would be the use cases that will emerge, and more importantly, what would merchants need? Now imagine putting the cart before the horse. Imagine if you had introduced the sound box right before QR code payments had taken off. People would have asked, what is the need? So the most important thing that you need to remember, user experience is critical to financial services, but also financial services need to be at a certain range or a tipping point whereby you are able to come up with a lot of innovation and user experience modifications that can actually help the product grow. So always keep that in mind. Let's go to the second one. So how many here don't use a smartphone? Please do raise your hands in terms of, or send an emoticon symbol so that I know how many people are not using a smartphone here. I'm almost certain that there is literally no one. And I'm convinced that there is no one. So the reason I say this is, if any of you would have seen people at your home or people having a non-smartphone device, they normally have a USSD channel on which a lot of services can be provided, including in financial services. So this is the most basic of all models that is available in order to trigger not only financial services, but also mobile money and financial inclusion for the people who are currently underserved. Now you would ask me, when there is not a smartphone, when there is no feature, how do you enable great user experience to be able to encourage financial services adoption? This is the primary example. So let me actually walk you through the screen so that you understand what kind of menu interfaces USSD offers. So do you remember your Nokia phones? I'm sure you do. On your Nokia phones, you have a left hand, and on the right hand, you have these two options. You can select them and you basically will have two different small menus that appear on the left hand side of the screen and on the right hand side of the screen. So this is exactly what it does. Now on a USSD menu, you can in areas such as in geography such as Africa, Latin America, even in Southeast Asia, you have mobile money operators which actually provide P2P, which is just like when you Paytm money to each other. Similarly, you have options where you can actually send money to each other using your USSD device. Now, the important thing here is that you would think, why do you actually need to send and receive money on your mobile phone if you don't have a smartphone? What is the need? Well, would you know that in places like Africa, if you carry cash in your hand, you can actually be killed. Women, for the most part, were not using any cash because they were worried that there would be physical violence if they did. For kilometers and kilometers, there are literally no booths, no people available. So imagine if I am in an emergency situation and I need to get money out of the bank. How can I do that? That's where mobile money comes in. So the most important user experience enhancement that the mobile money operators in Africa came up with was address the users where and how they use the current devices. If you create a smartphone or an app solution for Africa, it will not work. Instead, if you try to provide solutions that users are going to use on the channels that they are used to, then of course adoption will take off. So let's take this particular example. This is a USSD menu, which is very typical. You can buy airtime, which is buy your recharges. You can send money, you can withdraw money, you can pay a bill. And of course, there is more options in a basic menu. Now, if any of you want to know how this works, you can go to your prepaid phones. Try to understand. I think there is a shortcode that you need to type and then dial, and then you will be able to see your USSD menu on your Airtel, Vodafone, and your Jio phones. So it has to be supported by every telco, and you can operate and see how it works. You would be quite surprised, and you might even like it. Now, coming back to this example, you enter a phone number, which is a unique number that, of course, you are aware of because that's your phone number. Or it could be somebody else's number. For example, if I want to send money to Hitesh sir, I will enter his phone number, I will enter the amount, and then I will enter a small MPIN. Does this remind you of something that you use currently? I think it might. This is exactly like the UPI interface that we have, except that in the UPI interface, we can pick up our phone numbers from our contacts, right? Now let's come to this particular example in which user experience has made a huge difference to the uptake of mobile financial services in very, very poor countries. So in Airtel Money Tanzania, because customers were having an issue with both cash and deposits as well as withdrawal, Airtel Money Tanzania actually came up with this Get Money option, which comes as the topmost or the 0th option in their mobile money USSD menu. It has been provided as a 0th option so that the number of other options in the USSD menu is not disturbed, because people remember how they are using this. And this was done using one of our company's products. Now, the important thing here is that why was this difference made? So imagine if you are a user and you're used to using a particular menu. So the minute you press 1, you know that it will be sending money. Now, however, Get Money is a major important concern that was highlighted based on a feedback from customers and a study that was conducted and a human-centered design approach for UI UX. Based on this, Get Money was considered as one of the top most options that customers were looking for. So what did we do? Rather than disturbing the entire menu, we just made Get Money as the 0th option on top. And we started seeing that people were able to make a huge number of transactions here. So this is one example in which a small user experience difference can make a huge difference to what you want to enable for the customers. Now, the next question you'll ask me is, what will happen if you put 0 on top? After you press 0, you actually are taken to 4 different options. Number 1, transfer from bank. Second is loans. Third is request money from a friend. And 4th is receive from abroad. Now, based on user feedback, these were the 4 options that users wanted most. So this is also another great example in which just one small change has actually resulted in this service taking off in this country. Second, which is the most important, this is actually a revenue generating service. So why would the telcos be interested in making the change? Because the minute you get money, so normally all services are paid for. This is one service in which you can actually get a fees from the customer for using the service. So again, 2 things to remember. It is not always big changes that actually inspire a lot of usage, transactions, taking off, and of course, growth. It is actually small changes. Second, human-centered philosophy and thinking in terms of both design as well as feedback actually ensures that we are able to make changes into services for financial services inclusion and of course for advancement. Third, and the most important use case that I'm sure all of you are looking forward to receiving is the lucky red envelope. How many here have heard about this innovation from China or have understood and have known of the Chinese red envelope? So let me explain this. So red envelopes are normally given in China during their traditional festivals. And the most interesting part is that traditions actually play a very important role in financial services adoption. And China is a perfect example. So when in China, if you are a parent, you will receive a different red envelope, and the amount of money that you will receive in renminbi is about $100 to $300, and in renminbi it's about 500 to 2,000 renminbi. If you're a close friend or relative, then you will be giving an envelope of this particular amount, and so on. Similarly to your employees, to your own children, and of course to acquaintances' children. Now the question is, normally how this used to happen was you used to buy a physical red envelope, just like the ones that we give during weddings, during some festival times in our side of the world, and then you put physical money in that, and then of course you give this particular envelope to the recipient. Now the important thing that WeChat and Alibaba, which has Alipay in China, did was they converted this entire process into a digital process, which actually helped accelerate the adoption of what we call the red envelope revolution in China. So what happens here is, instead of actually putting money in an envelope, you actually send money from me to you, for example, and it is called a red envelope. Now, taking off from there, look at the numbers of respondents. So Statista, which is one of the most used sites for data, has actually provided this particular graph. WeChat and Alipay together, the users from there, 80% of WeChat users and 65% of Alipay users had reported that they are using at least this digital red packet in the Spring Festival as of February 2021. This is how high the penetration is. Tencent, and if you look at the others who are also providing this option, it's Tencent, Baidu, which is e-commerce, Sina Weibo, which is again for chat and e-commerce, Tencent VC, and others. What this shows is that the two largest platforms which are provide financial services to China, out of that, at least approximately at an average, 70% of all the users actually use this service. So what this has done is it has taken a physical experience, translated it into an equivalent digital experience, and exposed the entire world to it. So the physical adoption or physical giving of red envelopes has actually reduced by a whole lot. Now, if you ask me why and how this has been adopted all over the world, let's take another example. Digital Edia. This is another of our innovations that my company is involved with. But in the Middle East, on Eid Day, which is obviously considered a very holy month of Ramadan, is considered and celebrated there, Edia is given to family members, especially to the younger children, as a gift. Now, because of COVID-19, as you know, last year, COVID-19 has been a huge accelerator in adoption of financial services. And one of the prime examples was also that COVID-19 helped to translate or transform physical experiences into digital experiences a lot faster. Now, this is a perfect example. Because of COVID-19 restrictions, people were finding it very difficult to visit their family, friends, relatives, grandparents, uncles, aunts. So eFlus in Oman actually has offered this service, which is called the Digital Edia service, to its users. And again, in terms of user experience, it's very similar. You just put in the name of the person you want to send the money to. If the contact is available in your phone book, it will pick up the contact. You can put the amount, and Digital Edia is sent across to the other person. Now, how amazing is this, that instead of actually risking yourself and your health, you can depend on a digital transformational experience in order to achieve the same result. This is again one of the places where you would feel that user experience is key. Imagine a user experience in which you had to provide not only the details beyond the mobile number, maybe the KYC or something else of the user. So what this has done is it has taken care of the recipient's KYC because of the telco infrastructure at the back. Normally, when we send money to somebody else, we need to know both the sender and the receiver. But in this case, because it is a telco-based solution, we don't have these problems. So think about financial services. It is not always about making things easy. It is also about keeping things compliant to the requirements of and the rules and regulations of the country. Let's take another example. And this is one of my favorites, which is financial inclusion for women. Now, how many women in your family actually use mobile services or use mobile financial money? Please raise your hands and tell me. I would love to know how many of them use it. And I'm not just talking about banking. I'm talking about all kinds of services, including, for example, Paytm. Or send me an emoticon so I know. How many? Not a lot, actually. Okay, so this is one of the other examples that I'd like to show, and this is giving an example of Bangladesh. Now, Bangladesh has, as you know, bKash. It is again one of the primary innovations of this, I would say, century, whereby the entire infrastructure, banking infrastructure in Bangladesh actually has become dependent on bKash to make things work, because people are so used to sending money to each other, providing and paying for services using a mobile money solution. Let's take care and understand how exactly financial inclusion for women has been accelerated using this principle. And then the next question will be, how has user experience helped? So let's find out.
আমার নাম নুরবানি। ফোন হাতে নিছি বিয়ার 2 মাস পর। ফোনটা যখন হাতে নিছি তখন ভয় লাগছে, কারণ করতাম জানি না, রিসিভ করতাম জানি না। স্বামী টাকা পাঠাইতো আঙ্গ বাড়ির পাশে একজনের তো পাঠাইতো। টাকা খুঁজতাম তাইলে কইতো মুখখানে থুইয়েছি ডাকাতের ডরে, সন্ত্রাসের ডরে। তা তো আজকে লাগবে, হ্যাঁ আর 4-5 দিন পরে দিত।
মোবাইল মানি ব্যবহারের প্রথম ওদেরকে আমরা উদ্বুদ্ধ করছি।
আমাদের বাড়িতে যাই বলছে যে বিকাশ করলে আপনাদের অনেক সুবিধা হয়, যে কোনো মুক্তি ভাজি গেছেন, স্বামীর দ্বারা ফোন দিচ্ছেন, স্বামী টাকা পাঠা দিব, আপনারা আর কোনো জায়গায় যান লাগবে না, আমার হাতও দেন লাগবে না, অফিসে আপনারা হারাই দিবেন। তখন আমরা কইছি যে কি টাকা যদি ভুলে চলে যায় এই টাকা আমরা কে দিব, আমরা এগিন করতাম জানি না, আমরা এগিন করতাম না।
ডায়াল কীভাবে করতে এটাও আমরা প্রথম শিখেছি। 1 থেকে 10 পর্যন্ত প্রথম আমরা তাদেরকে তো শিখাইলাম।
অনেকেই মূর্খ যে টাকা আসছে কিনা ওইটা জানে না, মেসেজ এরা চিনে না, পড়তে পারে না, মেসেজগুলো ইংরেজিতে হয়। চেক ব্যালেন্স কোন ফাংশন আছে, পাঁচে আছে, ওইটা শিখানোর পরে 5-এর পরে কি ক্লিক করতে হয় ওইটা দেখাইছি, 5-এর পরে 1, 1-এর পরে, এরপরে চেক ব্যালেন্স দেখছি মানে পারতেছে এরা। এরপরে শিখেছি তাদেরকে বাইয়ের টাইম কীভাবে নিজের মোবাইল থেকে নিজে লোড লওয়া যায়।
আমি যে ম্যানেজগুলা ওদেরকে শিখাইছি ওরা নিজেরা ব্যবহার করতে পারতেছে, ওটাতে ওরা খুশি। আমরা যে শিখাইছি আমরাও সন্তুষ্ট।
So folks, if I were to ask you, I will just pause here for a second. One of the primary things that this lady had said was her husband was sending her money and she was able to receive it after only 4-5 days. And the neighbor who was receiving the money did not want to receive the money because of the fear of this being hijacked. Now imagine if you were a lady and you had to take money from somebody else who refused to pay you. What would be the chances that you would actually be feeling safe about this money transfer? Also, as you know, women are very vulnerable. So imagine trying to collect this money from male counterparts where you are not able to trust the receiving party. So the entire process of literacy associated with financial inclusion has taken off due to this very simple interface that is available on feature phones, a very low cost instrument, and of course the complete infrastructure that is provided by telco services. Now let's actually understand the second part, which is about understanding about how this might be an equivalent to a mobile bank.
মোবাইল ব্যাংকে মনে করেন টাকা যদি জমা রাখি এটা তো অনেক লাভ। স্বামী যদি কোনো সমতে টিয়া হারাই তো হারে না, এন আর মোবাইলে জমা আছে, আই কিস্তি দিয়ে দিছি, সঞ্চয় দিয়ে দিছি, গুট লোন আছে, গুট লোন দিয়ে দিছি, ছেলে মাদ্রাসায় পড়ে, মাসে মাসে বেতন মোবাইলে ভাড়া দিই, হুজুরের বিকাশ আছে। এন যদি আর মোবাইল সরো লইয়া যা, পিন নাম্বার তো আর জানাই আছে, আজ সিম তুলি লেছি বিকাশ থেকে আর টাকা আই হাই গেছি, আজ শিখছি আইয়ে জানি আর পিন নাম্বার আসছে না।
বর্তমান প্রেক্ষাপটে আমরা এটাকে দায়িত্ব হিসেবে নিয়েছি, কারণ মানুষ তো অনেক পিছিয়ে মানুষগুলো যদি আমাদের দ্বারা উন্নত হয় তাহলে এটা তো আমাদের একটা আত্মতৃপ্তি।
So as you can see here, this is another great example of how in a just like we have a debit card and an ATM card, here people are using a mobile bank, a mobile money solution equivalent to that, so that they never share the PIN with anybody. They are able to make payments everywhere and how they want to use it. So this is very critical for us to understand that women are more vulnerable. So therefore, using these particular facilities, we always need to plan of how the uptake will be for the vulnerable population. Now, let me give another example. You would have seen that the women were trying to learn from each other, because very often what happens is that women do not have the ability to or they do not want to be able to share the fact that they don't understand with the men, because they can be taken advantage of. So another great example of something similar where user feedback actually led to a huge upsurge in digital transactions in Bangladesh was that a mobile phone operator actually did a study as to why the adoption was so less in women. You won't believe what they found out. Similar to the example that I showed to you earlier, they found out that women were not able to understand the particular menu that was available, and they did not want to go to the male counterparts in the family to ask, because they were saving money, which the men in the family did not know about. So they did not have the ease of use of this application, so they never used it. So what does that show to us? That when you make a certain change to the user experience, you can cause a huge surge of transactions. So all the company actually did was just make a change, look at what that menu was and why it was causing a problem, and it led to a huge surge. Another example is when you receive SMSs. Imagine if you're a non-English speaker. When you receive an SMS, even as a non-English speaker, the women are taught to read the digits. So even if they don't know what the SMS says, they are able to look at the numbers and know this is the money in their bank. So imagine every single innovation, every single user experience, or every single touch point that the customer has actually has relevance. So when the RBI has made it mandatory that there should be an SMS accompanying every financial transaction, it is to serve the needs of us, people who are lower than us in the pyramid, and of course the bottom of the pyramid. So user experience is key to ensuring financial inclusion. And now coming for the last set of examples. Now, there is a surge, and I'm sure that you've heard about these multiple cases of digital banks, challenger banks, neo banks, open banks, etc., etc. And you must be asking the question, what exactly is so special about them? And why are they even needed? It is because they have revolutionized the digital and transactional banking experience, which is based on how they have understood users and, more importantly, address the developing needs of users. So in traditional banks, they are very brick and mortar branches, which means that, you know, every nook and corner you will have a traditional bank branch. These are backed typically by very large financial institutions. But think about the digital bank, think about Paytm, think about Airtel. All of these banks are actually available only through your mobile applications. They don't have any physical branches. And then there is also an emerging sentiment of neobanks, which is a completely different category. What are neobanks? They are complete 100% mobile startups, which are not backed by any financial institution and are providing the same level of services. I want to leave you with this last example of user experience design in a neobank kind of solution and how it differs from a traditional banking solution, so that you're able to understand both the importance as well as the relevance of user experience in financial services. So one thing that you would have seen, which is fairly uniform across the entire video, was the fact that the screens were extremely slick. They were talking to you, and they were very uniquely positioned to be able to talk to you as a customer. So you as a customer is very different from me as a customer. Everything that I needed from my bank is shown to me in the top screens that were available. And more importantly, there wasn't any information that I would need from a physical branch that wasn't available on the app. So what this again shows is that digital banking has actually transformed the experience of banking and has made it something that you and I both are used to using on, say, social media, on using any app on our phone, the same experience, the same ethos, the same design has been incorporated, making banking a lot more seamless. Which is why, as you know, in India, we've actually leapfrogged multiple generations by directly going from what we used to call the web banking or the mobile, now to mobile banking, and now actually to app-based banking. Unlike other countries where digital banking is still a very large proportion and population of all the users who actually use it. So imagine you being student right now trying to take up a career, and if there was one thing that I'd like to leave you with is the fact that user experience is one of the most transformative pillars of design, development, and of course solutioning in financial services space. And if you're interested, then design is not the start, it is not the end, it is a whole 360-degree process which ensures that we are able to transform digital payments much beyond what we call the kitchen and actually taking it to users. So I hope this would be sufficient. Hitesh, I'll hand over back to you now.
Thank you so much. And a lot of examples and the contemporary cases that you brought in were quite interesting. The last one was superb. You know, this was new to me also, and it's very interesting to follow these ideas. So thank you so much to bring them across.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the students?
MOC, are we having any questions?
Hitakshi or somebody? Any question? Can you unmute people?
Meghavi, can we have you?
Yes, actually, when I saw the presentation, what I really loved about it was the women part, the financial inclusion and women, because I just want to, tell this to ma'am that I really loved it. I do not have any questions, but I really loved that part because it actually makes sense, as even nowadays people in urban areas as well does not know how to use these kind of payments. So it was really very, very nice and very notable.
Thank you so much.
Indeed,
Thank you,
I mean,
Miss.
yeah, please, Meghavi.
Yeah, no, ma'am, you can.
Monica ma'am, it was a superb presentation. I think all the examples were so relevant, and to be very frank, as a teacher, one thing I think, if we can take it forward, if Dr. Bhatia also will definitely agree. Can we have some kind of case writing on this? I know this is going to be very, very contemporary and relevant. So if some documentation, if we can do along with ma'am, I think that will be phenomenal idea.
So whenever you have any opportunity where you need an academic support, so we would be delighted to, associate with you or your clients or your, network, wherever you find it. She is Dr. Nikita Mehta, by the way. She is the faculty for finance, and under her guidance, this event is being conducted. So we are open to that kind of association, because you are working with a lot of startups and a lot of people who are coming up with ideas. And if they need any academic support to document or to articulate or to put things across, then it would be a privilege for us to get associated, ma'am.
Absolutely.
In fact, if I may add, this will be of use to so many students of our university.
Right.
We are a highly interdisciplinary university, So we have even in people of BBA, LLB, MBA, computer science, a whole lot of programs would be interested. Where are you based, ma'am?
I'm based in Delhi.
Delhi, okay. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for the opportunity. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Monica, for an enlightening presentation. We appreciate having this mysterious area clarified. We have reached to end of this delightful, insightful, and exciting session. Let me invite my classmate and a friend, Shikha Srivastava, to give away the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Meghavi. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to take this opportunity to thank those without whom today's event would not have been possible. Firstly, I would like to thank our esteemed speakers, the keynote addresser, Mr. Samar Kagarwala, for addressing us on the topic of role of FinTech in financial inclusion and integration in India. So well explained the topic simply by giving us his personal day-to-day experience using the financial technology. He explained what all include in financial ecosystem, and further he gave interesting examples, information about opportunities, advantage, and problems in financial and technology. Nextly, our expert speaker, Mr. Jinan Shah, for discussing on the topic, can tech help in India to reach 5 trillion economy? He explained the term what all will contribute for the same, that is payments, lending, and various infrastructure like physical, digital, equity, and payment infrastructure, and how government is focusing on this to reach 5 trillion economy. And further answered few questions for a better clarity. Our second expert speaker, Ms. Monica Jasuja, for informing us about the use of tech solutions to enhance end users' experience in financial sector. So she gave some practical solutions in terms of examples that has happened in the world of financial technology. This info and experience and the example of China, that is a red envelope, and how culture has played an important role in it, and then further the world has adopted that, and further how the solution has helped the good way, and women have of that example of Bangladesh, and further more informative examples. Further, I would like to present my gratitude and would like to thank the Professor Nilay Yagnik and Dr. Hitesh Bhatia, Associate Dean, and Mr. Krunal Shah. We are very thankful to entire team of CII Vadodara chapter, and special thanks to Chintan Shah, Mr. Hamza Adenwala, and other members of CII Vadodara chapter. I would also like to thank management and NUV, the marketing team, and the IT team. And last but not the least, I would like to thank the audience for their participation and patient listening. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Very nice program. All of Dr. Bhatia, Dr. Nikita, and all dear students, you guys have put in a great amount of effort. So, and it was a very nice program also, very contemporary and new.
Right.
So, yeah, thanks so much and all the best.
Thank you being here, sir. Thank you so much for motivating everyone. And of course, a big thank to all the students. There are a lot of volunteers from MBA who were working on this since last few days. So big thank to everyone. Thanks to Nikita. Thanks to all the faculties. Also, they have joined for this session. So thank you to all the faculties also.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I think there is a lot of takeaway after this, because of this pandemic. One thing which has happened is great, and that is going on YouTube Live. So anytime, even the batches to come, they can always go back and refer to all the intellect which has been built upon during this conclave. Okay, so for everyone being patient listener, being participative in this conclave, I thank everybody. Thank you once again. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Madam, should I end the meeting? Shahid here.